Considering that a lot of art content these days is focused around videos or live streams, taking a step back and looking at a picture of completed artwork might feel a bit boring, especially these days given our increasingly shortened attention spans. But this need of constant stimulation hits a brick wall when you consider the copious amounts of AI slop most likely cluttering up your social media feeds. I had went on an AI purge of my Pinterest feed lately, but even now, more and more AI-generated images are creeping up to the point where I'm paranoid if I'm saving any of it to my many reference boards. Safe to say, the internet feels pretty cluttered these days, and while there are some exceptions like Blue Sky or Kara that is more strict on AI content, where else can artists and those who enjoy art find the content that they are looking for in a less dopamine-addled manner? I'm Ayesuna and I make videos, more specifically art videos, and while I'm trying to purge myself on social media sites that harm my attention span, as well as my mental health, I still interact with quite a lot of art-related content. I like being aware of the things going on in the art community and the platforms that artists use to show their work. And in a world of video content and short-form media, there is a platform that somewhat rewards you for stopping and smelling the roses. And that is Reddit. I know, don't boo me, Reddit has issues. A lot of the issues are similar to the ones of other social media platforms, which is inconsistent moderation. While the site itself does have a terms of service, each subreddit has its own set of rules which are mainly inconsistent depending on what subreddit you happen to be on. And each subreddit has its own set of moderators, which surely do their job fairly and without bias until they aren't in it for a quick power trip. Despite the many flaws with Reddit, there is still quite a use for the platform. After all, it stuck around for so long for a good reason. Whether it's finding a solution to a very specific problem that you have, or being able to tailor your feed to suit your interests, Reddit can be the dark horse in the art community, especially if your art cares to a particular niche or fandom. And that brings me to the topic of today's video, and that is the imaginary network, or the imaginary network expanded. As nebulous as that name sounds, it is essentially a collection of subreddits with the goal of sharing art. What sets these subreddits apart from other art-adjacent subs or even other social media platforms is that they both prohibit the post of AR-generated content, and they crack down on reposts as well as artwork that hasn't been properly credited. To make it even sweeter, those who do post on these subs must also include a link to the artist and a source for their post. If only all platforms had these rules, art theft would be a lot less of an issue. The imaginary network is interesting for the fact that you can be as broad or as specific as you want depending on your tastes. There are imaginary subs of many different subject matters, whether that's characters or specific character archetypes, whether that's archers, knights, nobles, scholars, warriors, and of course witches, as well as imaginary subreddits for landscapes as well as architecture. They even have imaginary subreddits for monsters, which I in particular have been browsing a lot lately as I'm in the middle of writing my own horror/comedy webtoon series called The Bookkeeper's Daughter. In fact, this footage here is me coming up with some character designs for my main character of that series that I'm working on. So understandably, I want to get my hands on any type of cryptid art that I can come across. But lately it's been harder for me to find specific genres of art given all the AI-generated slop that's out there these days. So having these subreddits that don't allow AI art to be posted is a nice change in pace. If you like the topic of me talking about art in relation to social media, then don't hesitate to like this video as well as subscribe and hit the bell. I think I officially started a series where I talk about how artists fare on different social media platforms. I already did a video for Instagram and Facebook, as well as Kara, and I recently just did a video regarding Blue Sky. I've said it before, but it's important for artists to look critically at the platforms that they use to spread their work, and that really doesn't just apply to artists. We should all be more critical on the platforms that we use, especially considering that they are a widespread way that we get our information these days. But that's beside the point. It's just nice to have a place on the internet where you can find specific artwork to your fancy. I like discovering new artists on the internet, and with AI being all over the place, that's been harder and harder to do. Having places like this on the internet for artists to share their work is increasingly important, especially for those who want to post their art online, as well as those who just simply enjoy the artwork that's being presented. And it's not just the imaginary subreddits either. There are plenty of art-related subreddits for specific mediums as well as programs. For someone who's been learning graphic design and using Clip Studio Paint for quite a while now, I've been frequenting those types of subreddits quite a lot. And the input that I found there was actually quite useful in my own art journey / graphic design journey. Now I get why this type of formula works best on Reddit, considering that each person can pretty much make their own subreddit for any given topic. Platforms like Blue Sky and Tumblr do have communities that are quite similar to these. And like I said, I already made a video about Blue Sky, and I think I probably will make a video about Tumblr in the future. Having a community for a specific niche, or at least genre of art, might be more useful compared to just having it float in the atmosphere. Though that is my take, I am curious in yours, so don't hesitate to leave a comment if you think that this is relevant to you and your artwork, or your enjoyment of artwork online. I think social media can be a great tool as well as a great enemy for particular artists, but that doesn't mean we can't work around these problems with algorithm among other issues to find a community of like-minded individuals, as well as those who are just interested in seeing more artwork. I think that was the issue with Kara, as it was a platform for artists. In a place like Reddit, your artwork is more likely to be seen by other people that aren't necessarily in the art community. That is something that a lot more video-focused platforms don't exactly have. With places like Instagram as well as TikTok, one bad video can pretty much ruin your own feed, and then you're just fed content that you really don't want to see. Again, I really only use these platforms to post my own artwork as well as observe what other artists are doing, so having a way to remove the middleman for me is quite nice to see. I think if YouTube as well as TikTok and other video platforms adopted a feature like this, it could actually be quite helpful for smaller content creators. For instance, if you like horror and horror-related art, it would make sense to subscribe to a list of horror creators. Same for anime or really any particular niche regarding art or any sort of topic. We've seen these types of changes on text-based platforms, so I am curious to see how it will work on something like YouTube or TikTok, or even Instagram for that matter. Art-related discords are sort of like this, but again, there's still the risk of your artwork being stolen on there. In a way, these platforms almost feel like a return to forum with old-school forum websites. While they definitely lack the personality and charm of a forum, a lot of the features do resemble a close-knit community of artists and like-minded people, but in ways that can attract other viewers. Given how big these social media corporations have gotten, it makes sense that users do want a more intimate experience with the platforms that they use, as well as the users they interact with. Many artists in the past 20 years have came to fame by posting their artwork in these smaller forums. So I think that if a shift like that is really going on in the whole art community, I think that actually could be a net positive. Now, of course, waiting for these platforms to make these changes to help creators definitely isn't always the wisest decision. And I've said it a million times that you really shouldn't put all your eggs into one basket when it comes to posting artwork online. Realizing that there are other places that you can post your artwork is a net positive in the fact that you aren't necessarily stuck to certain platforms or social media pages. Of course, I get wanting your art to be seen by the wider public. I do think it's nice to have a break from that, as far as not having to post constant videos, or even just really being able to connect with other artists in your genre. Not having to deal with constant rage bait content is also quite nice in my opinion. It shouldn't have to be a binary choice for a platform to be artist friendly, as well as something that other casual users can enjoy. Blue Sky itself is an example of this, but Reddit and other places are starting to embrace that more as well. We should stop letting these platforms dictate what type of content that we see and start making our own communities online, just like we used to do in the forums back in the old internet. Despite the many problems that Reddit still has as a platform, I do still find it quite a useful resource as an artist, as well as someone who's trying to learn graphic design. Other subreddits that I frequent on the platform are the Artist's Lounge, which is good for both the technical as well as emotional aspects of being an artist. This subreddit actually gives me plenty of ideas for videos as far as YouTube is concerned, so again, I wanted to shout this subreddit out. Like I said before, I currently am using Clip Studio Paint, and there's quite a lot of features that I'm still not quite familiar with. So another place that I also frequent on Reddit is the Clip Studio Paint subreddit, which offers good tips and tricks for the program. Sometimes there's also free brushes on that subreddit too, so keep a lookout for that as well. On the traditional art side of things, there's also subreddits for specific mediums. Whenever I decide to buy a new tube of watercolor paint, I always consult the watercolor subreddit. I can quickly learn pigment information on certain brands on the fly, which is useful if I'm in an art supply store. There are subreddits for tracking your own art progress, and subreddits for art prompts if you don't quite know what you want to draw. While unfortunately AI art is still prevalent on Reddit, all the subs that I mentioned have an anti-AI art policy, and the mods do seem quite consistent in applying those rules. While Reddit might not be as flashy as other social media platforms, I think it definitely is a good resource for artists looking for specific answers to questions, as well as connecting to similar artists of a particular genre. I plan to start utilizing my own artwork on Reddit in the near future. Because unlike other platforms these days, I think Reddit has remained quite consistent. While some users might be less than pleasant to deal with on the platform, for a while now it's actually been easier to find specific information on Reddit easier than it is on Google nowadays. And that really doesn't just apply to art-related questions as well. And what a sad state of the internet for that to actually be the case. If you're looking for someone to do some critiques on your work, there are also subreddits geared towards that. And if you want to draw something a bit different than normal, then there's also subreddits for that as well. Quite literally, the sky is the limit on Reddit as far as what information you need as an artist. For those looking to get commissions, there's also subreddits geared towards that as well, both for safe for work and non-safe for work artists. And again, it's not just drawing, there's 3D modeling, 3D art, 3D graphics, motion graphics, graphic design, interior design, all sorts of different disciplines for those who want to create. If you're interested in all the things that I mentioned, then don't hesitate to join my Discord. I'll have the link pinned in the description. I'm tired of larger social media companies dictating what I can and can't say about my art, or whether or not it reaches people, so I create my own little space just for that. And while I of course make YouTube videos, I also stream live on twitch.tv/iasuna19. And by the time of me posting this, it will already be 2025, and I have many ideas planned for the new year. So stay tuned for that. And that sort of brings me to my question of the week. What changes do you think that social media platforms need to have in order to attract more artists to their platforms? I think with the case of Instagram in particular, having a chronological order in which you see posts would definitely help smaller artists grow their own following. And more broadly, I also think that there should be a way to filter out AI-generated content from other artists. I can't tell you how many times I'm trying to find a specific reference for a drawing or a picture, and I wind up finding more AI slop that wasn't really what I was even asking for. This is particularly bad with Pinterest. But Google is also having these issues these days. To my knowledge, neither platform has a way to block out AI-generated content, and instead it starts to color up your own feed. At least with Reddit, you can personally choose to remove that type of content from your home feed, and block subreddits dedicated to quote-unquote AI art. I'm fairly certain that Tumblr also has a similar feature, but I'm not too sure about that. I will make a follow-up video for Tumblr at a later date. And like I said, if you're interested in a series where I talk about different platforms for artists, then don't hesitate to like this video and follow. I already made previous videos on other platforms like Pinterest, Instagram, and now of course Reddit. But yeah, I think I will turn this into a series because it's actually been fun to research for these videos. As I've said, I've been on the internet for quite a while and I've been on a lot of different websites. but figuring out what works for artists can be a bit of a challenge. Especially when these platforms change their TOS like the wind, oftentimes without users even knowing these changes occurred. Not only is dealing with AI important, it's also important for users to know that if their stuff is going to be used for AI learning machines, as well as other content, especially if they can't even be compensated for such. We can and should demand more for these companies, and saying that shouldn't really be an outlandish claim. But that's just my opinion. I definitely think Reddit is worth looking into if you do need a specific guide or inspiration for your artwork, as there's plenty of resources there for your disposal. But if there's any other subreddits that might be useful for artists that I didn't mention here, then please let me know down in the comments. And again, I really want to thank everyone who has supported me here on YouTube as well as on Twitch and other platforms. 2024 was an amazing year for my growth, and I hope that 2025 will be a year where I can expand my content even more. This wasn't actually the first video that I intended to upload for 2025, but the other video that I am working on should be up either by the end of this week or by early next week. There, I will be talking about my art goals for 2025, so if you're interested, then don't hesitate to subscribe and hit that bell notification for all videos that I upload. But until then, goodbye and take care, have a lovely new year, and we'll see you on the next video or live stream. Peace.